Welcome to the Explainer. When we think of Victorian London, what usually comes to mind? Grand ballrooms, maybe? Foggy bridges from a Sherlock Holmes story? Well, today, we're going to peel back that respectable veneer and get into a story of survival, one that history often prefers to keep in the shadows.
And this right here, this is the key. This one idea is going to unlock everything we're about to talk about. It completely forces us to rethink what choice even meant for a woman in this time and place.
You see, the popular story, the myth, was all about the fallen woman, a tale of seduction, ruin, and some kind of moral weakness. But the reality? Oh, the reality was so much colder. It was often just math, a harsh economic calculation. For so many of these women, this wasn't about a fall from grace. It was about pure, simple survival.
Okay, so to really get this, let's zoom in on one woman's story. We'll call her Mary. She's going to be our guide. And her journey into this world, well, it's probably not the story you're expecting.
See, Mary's story doesn't start with some rich playboy or empty promises. Nope, it starts right here. She was a skilled seamstress, but she was working these insane 16-hour days in terrible light for what were literally starvation wages. Her fingers were cracked, bleeding. She wasn't falling from anywhere. She was staring down a slow, certain, painful slide into total poverty.
So, Mary makes a choice. And her new life, inside an establishment run by a woman named Mrs. Cartwright, it starts not with the chaos you'd imagine, but with this incredibly strict, almost domestic routine.
Yeah, no kidding. This place was run like a military operation. The madam, Mrs. Cartwright, had a precise schedule for everything. Mornings were for chores, meals, and these mandatory medical checks. You can forget the idea of a chaotic den of vice. This was a business, pure and simple, and it was managed for maximum order and, of course, profitability.
And this business had rules. You better believe it. Mandatory health checks? That was about protecting the investment. Absolute discretion? That was to protect the brand, the house's reputation. Even self-care, just looking presentable, that was framed as a non-negotiable professional requirement.
And this whole focus on health, it wasn't some kind gesture. It was a business strategy. That weekly doctor's visit, that was a major selling point for a high-class place like this. It was a guarantee of quality and safety. And that's what set them miles apart from the dangers of working on the street.
Okay, so you've got the routine, the rules. That's the framework. But the work itself, that was something else entirely. It was less about a simple transaction and so much more about performance, about creating an illusion.
Mrs. Cartwright, the madam, she made this crystal clear. She basically drilled it into them. You're not just selling a service, girls. You're selling an illusion. The men who came here didn't want to see the grim reality of a working woman's struggle. They wanted an escape from their own respectable, maybe even boring lives. They wanted a fantasy.
And every single encounter followed this sort of ritual. It started out like a social call, offering a glass of sherry, making small talk. Then came the performance part, the skill of figuring out what each guy was really there for. Was it conversation, intimacy, maybe just a bit of human warmth? And only then, after all that, came the physical transaction itself.
And after it was all over, another crucial routine kicked in, and this was so important. The cleaning up, changing the sheets, washing. It wasn't just about hygiene. It was a mental reset. It was a way to draw a hard line between the work and the self, to preserve a piece of who you were.
But what about the in-between moments, the downtime between clients? This is where we find something that might really surprise you, a genuine sense of community, of comfort even.
I mean, think about it from Mary's perspective. The house offered these small luxuries that were completely out of reach for her as a seamstress. We're talking regular, hot, hearty meals, real coffee, not that cheap chicory stuff, a warm house with a fire going. And maybe the most important thing of all, she wasn't alone. She was safe, and she was with other women who got it, who understood her life completely. And in those quiet moments, they weren't just workers. They were people. They shared stories and advice. They talked about their dreams for a different kind of life, like Mary's friend Lily, whose deepest wish was simply to see the seaside someday. Just once.
So this all brings us right back to where we started. Why? Why choose this life? The answer isn't hidden in some morality play. It's right there in the cold, hard numbers.
Just look at the comparison. It's brutal. As a seamstress, what did Mary face?
the certainty of 16-hour days, starvation wages, and total isolation. In the house? Yeah, there were huge risks. Disease, the social stigma, for sure. But there was also community, food on the table, and a real chance to escape complete destitution. It was a calculated risk, plain and simple.
So in the end, for women like Mary, this wasn't a choice between being good or bad. It was, as our source material so perfectly puts it, a choice between different kinds of difficult. This wasn't a moral failing. For so many, it was a practical step away from the workhouse or the grave.
And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. In a society that publicly shamed these women, while at the same time creating the very economic desperation that drove them to this work, and then providing the clientele that made it profitable, who is truly the fallen one here? We'll leave you with that.